Over the course of their lengthy and significant lives, Stoics perfected the art of human observation and comprehension. Think that a person's body may reveal a lot about their personality, feelings, and wants, even women's bodies. By closely examining minute characteristics, we can find unexpected psychological information that could refute popular belief in today's episode. Examining the psychology of particular physical characteristics with a particular focus on women's bodies and investigating how, before we get into this, they might disclose hidden truths. Great subject. If you love substance, be sure you watch this video through to the finish. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below with your personal ideas. Let's dive into the 7 chapters that will undoubtedly shock you with their experiences. The importance of having a small nose in Chapter 1. Have you ever observed how although it may seem strange, women with smaller noses appear to possess certain distinguishing characteristics? There has long been a notion that a woman's nose size may be related to other aspects of her body, especially her private anatomy, which is often called her sex. This concept has been used historically and even in some contemporary psychiatric theories, has continued to pique interest in whether it's true or not. Stoics, who were keen observers of nature and human behavior, would probably have understood that the nose is more than merely for them. The facial characteristic could have served as a means of comprehending a health, mortality, and even personality characteristics from an evolutionary perspective. Many people believe that having a smaller nose is a feminine characteristic. Nostrils that seem delicate, which begs the question of what this could indicate. About a woman's intimate anatomy, however, the relationship between body features and nose size may not have strong scientific support, but they are firmly anchored in cultural beliefs. Many people think that a smaller nose could indicate a more refined and intimate space, which would be consistent with the general notion that a smaller physical frame or feature is frequently linked to sophistication or nuance. This idea dates back to the prehistoric ideas that held that different physical and facial characteristics might disclose more profound facts about a person's body, and there is a certain psychological comfort in making these kinds of claims, notwithstanding their sexual character. Humans have always made assumptions in order to classify and make sense of the world around them. Encompasses our interpretation of physical characteristics, particularly in relation to attractiveness, and, although it may seem like a minor element, a tiny nose has been considered a sign of sexuality for generations. Of femininity implying the general softness, grace, and in some, it's important to note that in circumstances the size of her intimate anatomy. Different civilizations hold different beliefs. In certain communities, a small nose has been highly valued and associated with ideas of elegance and beauty. Ladies with smaller noses were frequently perceived as possessing delicate, even ethereal characteristics that extended to other areas of their. In these societies, the nose came to represent grace, and people thought that it might provide details about a woman's general physical characteristics, such as her personal places. However, we must keep in mind that no two women are same, and although these physical similarities may appeal to our feeling of regularity and order, although this isn't always the case. Stoic philosophy highlights the significance of paying attention and not drawing inferences based just on a woman's small nose does not imply that her body will neatly fall into a classification. The human body in all its variety is surprising in a lot of ways, and this notion regarding intimate anatomy and nose size may reflect psychological tendencies and societal standards more than. From a psychological perspective, a tangible truth is the conviction that certain physical correlations may also result from an attempt to identify trends in the apparently random realm of human relationships and attraction. People frequently search for minor information to guide them through the intricate relationships between the body and the emotions. A little nose, and only one person's look, can serve as a focal point for presumptions regarding their body type. And however, the Stoics would advise against placing too much value on such presumptions, even though they may offer an intriguing framework, should not be interpreted as. Furthermore, the notion that a small nose is a sign of femininity and refinement has been heightened by contemporary media and cultural ideals of beauty. A tiny button-like nose is frequently regarded as perfect, especially in the Western. This view perpetuates the notion in many cultures that a small nose indicates a delicate feminine look, and hence a tiny, delicate, intimate. However, anatomy reminds us that beauty standards are flexible and subjective. What physical characteristics are valued in one culture, yet may be viewed as not particularly noteworthy. It's also intriguing to think about how the nose fits into the overall framework of facial symmetry. And psychology research on overall attractiveness has long indicated that symmetry in our perception of beauty is greatly influenced by our faces, and a smaller nose can help that symmetry heightens one's sense of beauty, and, for some, even suggests more sophisticated physical attributes. Elsewhere, but once more, this is just a tiny part of a much bigger picture. Even if some people might still think that a woman's intimate areas and a small nose are related, the human body is just too complicated, so it's vital to approach these ideas with some skepticism and nuance. To be completely comprehended solely by physical characteristics, each woman is distinct, and while we may make associations between specific characteristics that the Stoics would recommend, because of cultural and psychological considerations, us to investigate farther than superficial presumptions in conclusion, even though the size of a woman's nose may pique interest and provoke conversation, but it's only one aspect of her entire appearance. Fundamentally, the idea that a smaller nose denotes a more sophisticated personal anatomy has roots in both cultural convictions and psychological inclinations. Yet, like everything else, it is crucial to approach this subject with an open mind and recognize that no one physical characteristic can describe each woman's distinct looks and whole existence, provide much more than what we can infer from a single feature, such as the size of her nose. Chapter 2. The significance of throughout history, women's delicate hands have frequently been linked to associated with delicacy, elegance, and grace. Ladies with tiny, more delicate hands are commonly regarded as representing a feminine and sensitive quality that transcends physical appearance. But others think that smaller, more delicate hands could also be a sign of specific characteristics in other parts of the body, especially those in their intimate anatomy. Although this is not supported by science, notion is still prevalent in a variety of cultural beliefs and psychological folklore that represent humanity's continuous interest with the relationship between several physical attributes, that the Stoics were famed for ability to watch human behavior, and the natural environment would have probably seen hands as more than just physical characteristics. The tools by which one interacts with life hands are symbolic of we influence the world, mold our surroundings, and express ourselves stoically. Smaller, more delicate hands could be an indication of a more subtly managed way of living. Cautious self-control or mindfulness, yet when it comes to analyzing physical characteristics, some have indicated that smaller hands can be a sign of more delicate or small body features generally, such as a smaller 6. This assumption stems from the more general idea that smaller physical characteristics in similar delicate or refined characteristics tend to correlate with one place of the body. Elsewhere, but it's crucial to approach these concepts with equilibrium and careful physical characteristics, such as hand size, are only a single component of an individual. Yet individuals are frequently tempted to make links between many facets of a person's. Every woman has a different appearance, and her hands may reveal one tale, while other body parts reveal another. It's important to refrain from generalizing or drawing conclusions based only on looks. Women with delicate hands can also give away a lot about a person's temperament and attitude. May appear reserved and kind, but that doesn't always imply that they're shy. Or additionally, passive hands are effective means of expressiveness that can convey everything from using subtle movements to express confidence and sensuality. Whether a lady is more active, hands-on, or preferring a gentler, more quiet approach to life, her hands are frequently the first to show who she really is. The sensitive hands of a lady who hasn't had physical intimacy in a long time may carry extra metaphorical significance. They can stand for the control and restraint she has cultivated over the years. Her hands may be an indication of the tension between caution and desire, as well as the cautious boundaries she has maintained. Observe how she uses her space between the need to preserve her privacy and the desire for connection. Whether she keeps her hands close to her body or is more free and expressive, having them in your conversations could give you understanding of her emotional state and degree of comfort. Simultaneously be aware of the subtle, frequently overlooked ways a woman's hands can express her wants, or her fingertips brushing against yours, a small touch on your arm, or even her hand gestures can convey far more information than words ever could. Sometimes a lady may use these tiny, delicate gestures to subtly convey her interest or attraction, gestures that the Stoics would use to tell us to pay attention, but not to. Ultimately, hands, like any other physical characteristic, provide a glimpse into the soul, but they don't tell the complete tale. A woman's delicate hands can reveal a lot about her emotional and physical health, but the most important thing is to observe, without assuming anything, follow her words and behavior, and stay aware of the subtleties of her body language. You may reveal the most profound aspects of who she is with time and attention. She is much more than the superficial characteristics that initially grab your attention. In the delicate hands are only one aspect of a woman's overall, more intricate appearance. While they might provide minor hints about her inner self or physique, essence. It's critical to approach with empathy and knowledge that each woman is different, and like her heart, her hands will tell their tale when and how they see fit. Something is wrong with the manner that Chapter 3 discusses gap teeth and their consequences. There is something unquestionably remarkable about a woman with gapped teeth, and this particular physical characteristic may appear to be an odd focus for comprehending other bodily parts. But cultural beliefs and folklore have long gap teeth linked to specific intimate characteristics. In particular, there has been the idea that women with gap teeth typically have smaller sex regions has persisted since ancient times, making this a fascinating subject in many conversations regarding the physique and features of women language from a Stoic viewpoint that emphasizes contemplation and observation at every. The Stoics would have been interested in how the human body might be a reflection of one's inner self. Regarding the potential role gap teeth could play in the larger story of comprehending human nature. Although they might not have agreed with the notion that gap teeth are a direct reflection of personal anatomy, they would always valued how people naturally look for significance in seemingly unrelated information. For them, having gapped teeth would have just been another aspect of individuality that wasn't necessarily connected to bodily characteristics elsewhere. So why have smaller, intimate? This idea might originate from a larger societal fascination with symmetry and proportion. In many cultures, a grin that is perfectly aligned has been linked to. This normal alignment is upset by traditional beauty gap teeth, producing a kind of imbalance that could prompt some people to hypothesize about other misalignments or special characteristics in the body, such as, in this context, small is frequently connected to neatness in relation to intimate anatomy. Control and sophistication traits traditionally associated with femininity, and from a psychological perspective, gapped teeth can arouse curiosity, and fascination is an uncommon quality, and human nature frequently makes us gravitate towards the strange. Or when you see someone with gapped teeth, you can start to question whether other areas of their body are similarly distinct or have unusual qualities for certain people, which piques their interest. Includes the notion that a lady with gapped teeth may also have a smaller, more delicate genital area. Anatomy. The relationship between physical characteristics has its roots mostly in psychological and cultural theory, associations rather than factual facts, yet it nevertheless demonstrates how people have long looked for patterns in the body and attempted to make connections between various physical characteristics. However, Stoics would warn us that although it's normal to want to find significance in these trivial things, we should refrain from letting adolescent emotions influence our decisions. Every woman, regardless of whether she has gaps in her teeth, she is special in her own way and deserves recognition for it. Gap teeth are now widely accepted as a sign of originality and charm in today's culture. Women with gapped teeth frequently display them with pride as a natural aspect of their beauty, viewing them as flaws, but as distinguishing characteristics of their look. The notion that gap teeth might imply that everything pertaining to private anatomy is less pertinent in contemporary debates when physical diversity is revered, and where, despite its cultural origins, individualism is prized above conformity. The notion that gap teeth are associated with smaller, intimate areas continues to pique people's interest. But it's crucial to keep in mind that this relationship is not based on any scientific evidence, but rather on myth and conjecture. In actuality, today's gapped teeth really represent confidence and originality, characteristics that go beyond a woman's outward look and relate to her general sense of, ultimately, the purported connection between gapped teeth and intimate anatomy is still a fascinating cultural phenomenon. Conception is one of the numerous ways people attempt to understand the body by looking at its external appearance. However, even though it's simple to become enthralled with these connections, it's crucial to keep in mind that the human body and its inhabitants cannot be characterized by a single characteristic, similar to how a woman's grin, whether or not it has gaps in her teeth, only partially reveals her experience. These ideas provide a limited window into our nuanced understandings of femininity and Chapter 4 on sexuality. The influence of cheek structure on the structure. Cultural perceptions of a woman's cheeks have traditionally indicated that those with fuller, rounder cheeks typically have this notion, like many other myths about the body, has endured throughout the smaller 6 sections. People of all ages who think that specific face traits can provide information about more private body areas in these connotations still have an impact on how different cultures view femininity, beauty, and even sexuality. Even in the absence of scientific evidence, the Stoics are always eager to investigate the connections between the body and the psyche. Perhaps noticing this relationship with interest in the physical characteristics were not only indicators of beauty, but also of a person's general well-being and vitality. A youthful appearance has been linked to fuller cheeks in particular. Fertile appearance, thus the notion that these women may possess smaller, more popular belief, has embraced refined personal anatomy. Even though this is undoubtedly an oversimplified, it highlights the innate human need to interpret physical characteristics and make use of these characteristics as markers of other facets of an individual's personality. There is no scientific foundation for this association, but it also represents a broader psychological propensity to associate physical characteristics with certain standards for femininity. Fuller cheeks appear softer, which may convert into presumptions that a woman's private region is just as fragile, or this notion is not unique to the modern era. Historically, such views have influenced everything from society's standards of beauty to the idealized representations of women in sculpture and art. Another example of how people utilize physical characteristics to garner attention is the societal notion that larger cheeks equate to a smaller 6. More general assumptions about the body, frequently without any solid proof to back those conclusions. This viewpoint also contributes to society's continuous interest in symmetry and proportion. A fuller cheek indicates a balanced, well-rounded face, and several believe that women with larger bodies may experience this equilibrium in other areas of their bodies. Because we're wired to perceive balance, cheeks may appear to have a more condensed, elegant personal region. Beauty has traditionally been linked to nature symmetry, and this subconscious people's perceptions of one another are still influenced by the correlation between facial features and body composition. Particularly with regard to beauty and femininity, even when these concepts are undoubtedly fascinating, it's crucial to keep in mind that each woman's physique is different. Simply because she has a fuller cheeks does not imply that her private anatomy would have a specific pattern that the Stoics would advise us to look for. Without passing judgment, acknowledging that physical characteristics only reveal a portion of the tale and that beauty can take various forms, they would probably contend that these ideas serve as a diversion from the deeper facets of interpersonal relationships. After all, the Stoic outlook on life is tempered by intelligence, decency, and character. Stresses disparities over outward appearances, which has a psychological impact. Smaller intimate parts and fuller cheeks may also result from deeper societal norms. We've been taught to link particular facial features and body types to particular features in this instance. Fuller cheeks are regarded as gentle, feminine, and regulated, resulting in the belief that these women possess similarly sophisticated features elsewhere on there. These cultural presumptions frequently go unnoticed, yet they abruptly influence our expectations and views, impacting everything from dating habits to, in the end, self-esteem, and the notion that fuller cheeks signify a smaller personal area are more cultural. More fascinating than a scientific fact, yet similar to many misconceptions about the body, it keeps influencing how we perceive femininity, attractiveness, and sexuality in subtle ways. Regardless of the idea's viability, it provides an intriguing window into our cultural perceptions of the human body, emphasizing how societal standards and physical attractiveness are linked, and how these ideals still affect our ideas, actions, and standards of what constitutes a desirable individual or desirable. Chapter 5. One of the most prevalent topics is body composition and slim women. It's commonly believed that women with thin bodies have smaller 60. This concept, which has its roots in both cultural and psychological elements, implies that the general makeup of a woman's physique might reveal details about her private anatomy, particularly the notion that slim ladies may have smaller, more elegant private areas due to their thin frames and more compact bodies. Continued across time, the Stoics were constantly aware of the connection between the mind and body, would have been interested in this notion, because physical characteristics were viewed as markers of overall health balance and harmony. A slender woman's body, frequently linked to confinement and control, which could cause others to assume that other parts of her physical anatomy are similarly compact and honed culturally, the idea that slender. The fact that women's intimate spaces are smaller contributes to larger cultural standards around femininity, and being attractively thin has long been linked to youthful vigor and attractiveness. And many believe that same qualities also apply to intimate anatomy. The smaller the body, the leaner. This idea may continue to influence our psychological perception of women's bodies in the intimate area, can result from our innate tendency to search for connections and patterns in a thin woman's body, considered as a model of compactness and efficiency, implying that her intimate anatomy is similarly. Moreover, the correlation between refinement and slimness goes beyond appearances and into our thoughts regarding personal characteristics. However, it's crucial to approach this concept with a certain amount of suspicion, even while it could be easy to infer a woman's intimate anatomy from her general. The truth about body composition is much more nuanced. Each woman's body is different. Because in contemporary culture, being slender does not always translate into having smaller, intimate parts. The media has emphasized thinness, and thin women are frequently depicted in accordance with beauty standards as the pinnacle of femininity, and this representation serves to further the idea that slender women are sophisticated in every way. As the Stoics would remind us, looks can only reveal a person's innermost anatomy. The notion that slender women having smaller private areas is ultimately more of a cultural presumption rather than a scientific fact. Even though it could provide an intriguing viewpoint on body composition, it's critical to keep in mind that each woman is different and that no one physical characteristic able to characterize her general nature or intimate anatomy. Chapter 6: Breast Size and Physique Traits. One of the most often discussed subjects in the realm of body-related myths is the relationship between a woman's breast size and other private features. In particular, it's common to assume that a lady with small breasts may also have a smaller, more slender physique. Includes presumptions on her private anatomy, as well as a specific women with small breasts are often thought to have smaller, tighter. Although this idea has been around for millennia, vaginas are still more cult natural law than Stoic thinkers who valued self-control and observation based on empirical facts may have approached this theory with interest, while simultaneously warning that the human body was Stoic. A physical vessel, and although one's outward look may provide clues about their behaviors or general health, mostly dependent on these presumptions, they would contend that accurate physical comprehension of an individual originates from more in-depth conversations and observations than from surface-level characteristics, such breast size for them, emphasizing outward features to attract. Finding a person's disparities and drawing judgments about personal regions would be pointless. Virtues, despite the notion that a more compact, intimate anatomy may be indicated by smaller breasts. Continues, this notion is probably connected to social norms that link minor breasts with slimness, youth, and a more polished physique overall, because women with small breasts frequently have thinner body shapes. People transfer this belief to other places of the body, including the intimate. One persisting belief is that a lady with smaller breasts will have a tighter or more sophisticated figure. Vagina, as though, from a psychological standpoint, bodily proportions must adhere to a constant, predictable pattern. The human propensity to link body parts to create a coherent image may be the basis for this belief. Small breasts are frequently regarded as a gentler, more subdued manifestation of femininity. In the same vein, a more delicate and smaller vagina is thought to be a manifestation of that subtle. The cultural obsession with femininity goes beyond breast size to include how people perceive women's intimate. These links in anatomy are not grounded in science, but rather in deeply ingrained cultural standards for being a feminist. And they endure because they conform to long-standing preconceptions about women's. This assumption has persisted in part because society frequently equates larger bodily parts, whether thighs, hips, or breasts, with sensuality and fertility, while lesser body parts are perceived as sophisticated and in charge, while women with little breasts are usually perceived as more subdued or less obviously erotic, which suggests that their intimate anatomy is similarly affected or suppressed this preconception. But it may not stand up to scrutiny because every woman's figure is distinctively her own. No amount of outside observation can precisely forecast the details of personal characteristics of a person. And this is an area where falsehoods frequently prevail over reality. It's also important to consider how these have been impacted by fashion and beauty standards. Perceptions throughout history. Different eras have favored different body types in times when larger, curvier figures were in vogue. Women with small breasts were often seen as lacking in femininity. In more modern times, where slim, lean figures are idealized, small-breasted women are celebrated for their grace and elegance. But no matter the era, the association between small breasts and smaller, intimate anatomy remains a prevalent assumption. The fashion industry, media, and even social circles all have a part in promoting these concepts, even in the absence of evidence. At the conclusion of the Stoic method, would remind us that we can't completely comprehend someone's personality or physical attributes based exclusively on visible characteristics, like breast size. Yet these perceptions may persist. They don't portray the intricacy of the human body. A woman with petite breasts is no less vital or femininely sensuous than someone with a bigger chest. Although they are frequently the center of attention, these physical characteristics are only one facet of her identity that the Stoics would support, an attitude that encourages us to value the whole range of human potential by distancing ourselves from such snap judgments beauty without overemphasizing certain aspects, which gets us to the heart of message. Although society frequently associates breast size with other personal characteristics, assumptions are founded more on cultural choices than on underlying realities. The Stoics would advise us to transcend above such superficial judgments and accept that a woman's true essence cannot be fully comprehended by only focusing on her physical form. Each person's body is complicated, and the depth of who they are is diminished when their individual presentation of their unique life is reduced to mere stereotypes. Chapter 7. Comprehending the B-leg and how it relates to the continuous quest to comprehend the human body. Another aspect that has garnered a lot of interest is the phrase blue structure describes the particular alignment and form of a woman's legs that, when seen from the front, have a little outward curvature that forms a B shape, or although not commonly acknowledged, those who uphold body-related myths indicate that, like other physical characteristics, women with this leg structure typically have smaller sixes or private areas. The Stoics are always perceptive and meticulous, as was covered in earlier chapters. Orientated would probably have found such concepts fascinating, thinking that the body could provide hints about an individual's inner mood, but they also advised against making superficial rulings in the B-leg case. The Stoics would likely agree that although this could be an intriguing characteristic, it's not always a sign of more profound realities regarding a woman's body or intimate. Despite anatomy, the notion that a woman may have a smaller personal area is based on the same psychological. Similar to how individuals look at small bodies, inclinations that influence other body-related beliefs. Thin figures, gapped teeth, and noses are signs of a woman's physical attributes. The B-leg shape has become yet another focal point. This thinking contributes to broader cultural notions of proportion and symmetry. And balance a woman with her legs, implying a certain level of sophistication and, though this idea may be more accurate, delicacy in the lower body is believed to have a similarly refined, intimate area. Based more on cultural tastes than biology, it satisfies our innate need to identify patterns in people. We prefer to believe that some traits, such as a woman's legs, can show larger facts about her whole body, the B legs. Graceful curvature turns into a representation of feminine sophistication, and this idea extends to presumptions regarding private anatomy. It's worthwhile to investigate the psychological component of this notion as well. Women with B legs are frequently perceived as moving with greater elegance and grace. This feeling of grace is connected to the conviction that their bodies are proportionate, compact, and controlled, which in turn feeds the it's crucial to keep in mind the presumption that their private anatomy is similarly constructed. Nevertheless, these links between intimate anatomy and leg structure are there is no scientific proof to support the hypothesis that women with B legs are more likely to have smaller intimate regions, compared to people with various leg forms, but many body-related myths. The concept endures because it appeals to our need to classify and comprehend the human body in straightforward visual terms. From a Stoic standpoint, it would be prudent to concentrate on the body's general health, strength, and vitality, rather than focusing on specific physical characteristics, such as the B leg, from which it is easy to make inferences. These outward signs don't fully depict a woman's body or her intimate relationships. Regions, the relationship between the smaller intimate anatomy and the B legs, is in more illustration of how we attempt to interpret the human body via patterns and physical clues. Although the concept may be interesting, it's important to address such views. Keeping in mind that each woman's body is distinct and cannot be boiled down to easy formulas or presumptions, the Stoics would remind us that real comprehension arises from seeing past outward manifestations and acknowledging the most profound intricacies of the human experience. As we near the conclusion of this episode, makes it very evident that the human body, and women's bodies specifically, carry an abundance of significance in terms of our perceptions and interpretations of different physical characteristics, ranging from small noses to leg shape to breast signs, and all in between. For a long time, society has attempted to make links between personal traits and anatomy, but as we've looked at these ideas, it's crucial to understand that these associations are frequently founded on cultural presumptions rather than scientific facts. The Stoics' profound knowledge of human nature and behavior would serve as a reminder to pay close attention, but never pass judgment too hastily. They hold that real learning arises from comprehending the entirety of a woman's body, not just its intricate bits. Complex, and each characteristic, no matter how minor, contributes to a larger story about her that makes her as alluring as. When someone is reduced to a collection of physical characteristics or stories, we must keep in mind that each woman is distinct, and analysis alone cannot fully reflect her personality, ideas, and be related. Although the myths we covered today are intriguing, they are merely reminders rather than the absolute truth of our innate human propensity to look for significance and patterns where none exist. Therefore, what can we learn from this that will help us better understand the distinctiveness of women's bodies, and a reminder to approach these subjects with interest? And regardless of a woman's small breasts, gapped teeth, B-legs, or other distinctive characteristic, these are only aspects of her physical appearance and not her complete identity, as the Stoics would urge us to value character and strength above everything else by concentrating on what lies underneath the surface. Otherwise, as we come to a close, I urge you to consider the concepts we discussed today and keep in mind to pay attention while also asking questions and seeing past outward appearances and recognize the complete depth of the women in your life, as well as naturally, if you liked this episode, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your opinions. If you have any personal anecdotes or thoughts on this subject, please share them here. I'd love to hear them, so let's continue the discussion because comprehension. Thank you for viewing. And until then, know that the human body, inside and out, is a journey that never ends. Take care of yourself and others around you the next time.